So we got to be vigilant about this. And just because your favorite Walgreens or CVS or fill-in-the-blank store is carrying the product, you need to know how they have vetted those companies and the products that they put on their shelves. And one would think that in a chain like that, the vetting process is based on a criteria that is very, very different from the criteria we've been talking about.
Yeah, most definitely.
Hello, Awakened Beauties. Finally, it's here. The truth to empower women to true inner beauty through healthy biology. And now, here's your hostess, Cassandra Keel, your organic beauty and CBD mentor, helping you stay sane, get sleep, and bring your sexy back. Sponsored by evokebeauty.com.
All right. Well, welcome to the Awaken Beauty podcast. I am Cassandra, your organic beauty and endocannabinoid mentor. And today we have a very, very exciting show. She is a screaming entrepreneur, which we all love entrepreneurs on this show. And she has a very, very, very close hand on the world of CBD and cannabis. And her name is Aliza Sherman. And so before we get started, I just want to go ahead and share exactly who Aliza is. And so Aliza Sherman is a Latina entrepreneur and CEO of Ellementa Incorporated, the fastest growing global cannabis wellness network for women. She is also the publisher of hercannalife.com, a website showcasing women in the cannabis industry. In the 1990s, Aliza started the first women-owned internet company, Cybergirl Incorporated, and the first worldwide internet marketing networking organization for women, Web Girls International. In 2009, Fast Company called her one of the most powerful women in technology. Aliza is the author of 12 books, including Cannabis and CBD for Health and Wellness, which will be coming out soon, and the Happy Healthy Nonprofit. So as you can see, she is nothing short of an entrepreneur. And so I want to go ahead and welcome Aliza. Are you with us today?
I am not only with you, I'm with you from Alaska.
You are from Alaska, girl. How you ended up there is probably a part of your story. But I really, really, really love your entrepreneurial spirit. And I live in Minnesota. You're in Alaska, both tundras to some degree, most parts of the year.
both cold in the winter and dark.
Yeah, we're
coming out of that. So we got sunshine now.
Absolutely. So being in Minnesota, we are a non-legal state for recreational. We do have medical use. And, I've been in the world of CBD for 2 years and really researching and utilizing it with our clients here at Beauty Ecology. And that's how I found Ellementa, and which is what brought me to you. And it's been a real, real joy watching kind of just 6 months ago, progression of Ellementa and what you're doing. But I was really, really searching for a group of women that were just as passionate as me about education and really hitting the ground at the ground level and helping educate and bring women together. So there's a vast background that you carry. Since we're talking about cannabis today, maybe you can just talk a little bit about kind of some of your past and kind of how you ended up stumbling into cannabis to begin with.
Well, my past is very not checkered, but very varied. But by the way, thank you for having me here. This is really exciting for me. I started my career more in just regular business. And I did start the first woman-owned internet company. That was out of my hobby of getting online. And I was very interested in women's issues. And then I decided to keep on pursuing digital marketing. I was early on mobile marketing. I was early on social media. That was kind of my thing. Meanwhile, writing all these books about the internet and about business and about entrepreneurship, specifically for women. And fast forward to me looking at, well, how can I expand my digital marketing business? I decided to look at the pretty fairly new legal cannabis industry as a place to possibly go and find new clients. And that was in 2016. So as I began to look for more information, I started a whole new LLC because I was kind of worried. I was like, am I going to get in trouble for getting into, even though I was just in marketing, I wasn't actually growing or selling. But I thought, wow, what if I get in trouble somehow? So I started a whole different entity. And that's when I started hercannalife.com. I was just meeting women in the industry, realizing they weren't getting a lot of press. And so I decided to start a website dedicated to profiling them. While I'm learning all of this, it suddenly occurred to me, wow, this could help me. So I hadn't really put two and two together that here is the cannabis industry selling the cannabis plant made newly legal in several states. Like, wow, I wonder if that would help me. So I was going through menopause. I had arthritis in my neck. I was in a lot of pain for over a year. I didn't want to take any painkillers. I didn't want to take sleeping pills. So I was a little bit puzzled on where to go, frustrated really, and suffering a lot. So that is how business merged with personal. And as I began to explore the plant, I realized there are parts of that plant that work really well with my own body and my brain. And that was the beginning of my healing. So from business to healing myself, I just wanted other women to learn about this. And that's where Ellementa came about.
Yeah, that's really great. And then you have 3 other partners with Ellementa, or is it 2 other partners? Can you share a little bit
about other partners?
Your 2 other partners in Ellementa and how you met them?
Yeah, so my idea for Ellementa came out of, you had mentioned that I had started Web Girls International, which was a global network for women, teaching women about the internet. I really felt that if we just got women in a room, the energy would be very specific.
Right.
And the comfort level would be really high because there wasn't any competition. We were all there to be like a sisterhood. So I wanted to replicate that for cannabis because if you think about it, the internet back in the early 90s, very complex, misunderstood, very much a male-dominated thing, in a lot of ways very vilified and also very hyped. Yeah. So you just didn't know what was real and where you could go and how you could benefit from it. So thinking about the cannabis industry and cannabis itself, it was the same thing, very scary and misunderstood and federally illegal. And how do you get this medicine into the hands of the people who need it? Well, you educate women. And how do you educate women in a way that we receive it really well? You put women in a room. And that energy is amazing. And we're there with common purposes to take care of our loved ones and to take care of ourselves. So that is the impetus for Ellementa. And it was really an inspiration that I kept on telling my friend Melissa Pierce in Chicago, had to join me. I have this feeling. I have the same feeling I had when I started Cybergirl. This thing is going to be huge and women are going to be so significant. Right. And she was not into it. She wasn't into cannabis. She was like, I tried it once before, didn't like it. No, it's not my thing. And I just kept at her. And so finally she decided to join me. We started Ellementa formally. She's like behind the website and all the technical parts of it. And the 2 of us are marketers. And we just had really good complementary skills. And then that was in January of 2017. So by September, we were so overwhelmed. It was growing so quickly. And we just kept saying, we need another partner. We need another founding partner. What are we going to do? And I knew Ashley. I knew her for 13 years. We had met when I was doing a documentary film on miscarriage. She and I were both experiencing miscarriages. So that was 13 years ago. And I had just seen she was in the cannabis industry. And I ran into her at MJ BizCon in Vegas. And I thought, how weird is that our paths crossed like that again? And yet it was just the right thing. And we invited her to be a founding partner and she agreed.
Wow. And you guys all have this just really fun and amazing synergy. And everybody you've brought in since then is just wonderful and so complimentary. And so you started Ellementa. And so what did it look like that first group? Was it just kind of you on the ground and kind of starting your own local events? Was it the three of you starting your own local events? What did that look like so that women can really understand and the viewers can really understand what it's grown to in its short time just till today?
Sure. Well, we started in January of 2017. In April, our website launched, and I held the very first gathering in Anchorage, Alaska. We had about 55 women show up from all walks of life, many of them with very intense pain stories in particular, some with cancer stories, a lot of them just seeking better information. And it was exactly what I hoped it would be. It was everyone exchanging information. Later, maybe 2 weeks later, I was at a women's show and these two ladies came up to me and said, "Do you recognize us? Do you know who we are?" And I said, "I don't." And they said, "We just met at your Ellementa event.
Wow.
And we're best friends now." And they were just hanging out after that. I said, "This is everything I was dreaming it would be." So then in June of 2017, Melissa and I flew to Denver, met up with Ashley and helped her launch Ellementa Denver. Then the next month in July, Melissa launched on her own Ellementa Chicago. And then I think in October, we launched Atlanta, New York City, San Francisco, Los Angeles. I'm pretty sure that was it. And so by the end of the year, we had a little more than half a dozen gatherings that were happening. Seattle, Portland also joined up. And that was the first year.
Wow.
We're at 55 cities now, which means that we're partnering with women in each of these cities. We split revenues with them and we help build their profile as they bring Ellementa and the whole spirit of Ellementa into their communities to support women.
Yeah, I think it's really profound. We had our first event last month and it was a ton of fun. More people showed up than I would have thought. But, you know, we're here to talk a little bit specifically about cannabis, CBD, and women today. And, you know, as these women join together, you're right, whether it was with the internet craze, whether it's anything, women carry an immense amount of energy when they get together. There's a very special element, nurture element that when their hearts and our minds are in the right place, it can really explode. And so, you know, 25 women in our small space and every single one of them could really kind of, as much as you're a data girl, it was much of a data kind of collection with these women. And a lot of them were experiencing stress. Most of them were experiencing hormonal dysregulation, arthritis, much of the same issue that you had, just low-grade arthritis and inflammation. And so it's a lot of these kind of subchronic, whether it's autoimmune or inflammatory experiences women go through. And a lot of times, unfortunately, the data is more than men. There's a special place, I think, for cannabis and CBD and women. And that's why I think what you're doing has exploded so much and why we're seeing it here in Minnesota and nationwide. Women jumping out into this industry has been uber fun. Now there's ultra male still kind of dominating the space, but you know, this is really what you represent and what you're doing. And I'm so thankful for it. Going into the data, you've done a lot of groundwork on all these different platforms. And now with Ellementa, why do you believe that cannabis and CBD is such a unique healing modality for women and for women specifically, or women versus men? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think that cannabis and CBD in particular, because it's a little bit more prevalent and easier to access, but just cannabis as a plant, it's the female plant that gives us the powerful medicine.
Yep.
So there is a connection to the feminine, absolutely, without a doubt. It was also suppressed from us. It was taken from us by men in power, in government and wealthy men back in the 20s and 30s and 40s. So if you really look at the history of cannabis, it was brought to us for healing by both men and women, but a lot of women, and it was taken from us by men.
Right.
So we, as women, need to come back to center stage and bring the plant back to the people.
Yeah.
Now, is cannabis better for men or women? I think it is good for human beings. It's good for mammals. Mm-hmm. All mammals have an endocannabinoid system, as you know, a system laying over all the rest of our systems through our nervous system, reproductive, respiratory, circulatory, and then our immune system as well. Mm-hmm. If you think about the power of this plant, and I know a lot of people say, how can a plant do all these things? One plant. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a superfood, a super plant, because it has so many more of certain compounds, chemical compounds than any other plant.
Right.
And I know you know a ton about cannabinoids and terpenes. Yeah. Well, the cannabis plant is chock full of these chemical compounds that can interact really well with the human body through our endocannabinoid system. So if you think about that simple fact, the scientific fact about the biology and the botany and the physiology for us as humans, this plant is meant for us. Mm-hmm. And we've suffered because this plant was taken from us and taken from the land. I think that we are in a renaissance now, and I feel like we're bringing not just good information, better information, more research, more scientific studies, medical studies, but we're also just bringing healing to the planet and to one another. Mm-hmm. I think if we think of cannabis from that standpoint, we can only do good with this plant.
Right.
And I just hope that that's what's going to happen. You know, things are changing, money's coming in, big money, old money with old attitudes, lots of new obstacles and hoops for us to jump through. I think that we will be more powerful if we as women stick together, support each other, and build each other up. Mm-hmm. Because there's a new force coming into this industry that doesn't really appreciate everything I've just talked about.
Say more about that force. What do you mean by that?
Well, when the big money comes in, it's pharmaceutical companies, it's tobacco companies, it's male-dominated industries that are more looking at the bottom line instead of a triple bottom line. They don't care about people. They don't care about planet. They just care about profit.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's everybody, and it's certainly not a male versus female thing, but we've watched industries come in and just decimate land, decimate habitat, decimate our health.
Yep.
And so we have the ability to look at things a little more holistically. Mm-hmm. It's just whether or not we'll have the money and the wherewithal to sustain as all these bigger concerns come into the industry.
Yeah. And I think that, looking 2 years back, and I'm sure for yourself, why it was so exciting, because, I grew up in Southwest Minnesota, a very small town, a farming community. And it's so heartwarming to see all of these young individuals be so passionate about getting back into the farming industry. And aside from it being a medicinal compound, the chemical compounds that we can utilize, we have the textile industry. I mean, there's so many industries that really can flourish from the utilization of hemp. And so there's just a very, very unique role that, as these small businesses have been able to work with the cannabis plant. I think it's somewhat of a fear for all of us that will happen, but that's part of what Ellementa does. It's a part of what we as consumers can do when we're purchasing products, is to really understand who we're purchasing from, understanding the company, the CEO, how they farm, where they farm. There's many, many different hands of action that go on when we're just getting to the end product of one product. I think there's still a lot of room and play in that playground. So I think education right now, and that's part of what Ellementa and what a lot of people are trying to do, is really just be that arm of education. And I think there's a lot out on the internet. There's a lot of studies, and thankfully now we have a lot more studies coming. But I find the cannabis plant and CBD just so, to your point, it is a female plant. It's so, when we talk about self-care, and we talk about self-care with women, you can get on Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest and find all of these quotes, and it almost feels inauthentic for just everybody to have all this stuff screaming out self-care, because it's very personal to every single person and what that looks like. And CBD, it's anti-inflammatory, or it's calming, or cannabis for its sleep benefits, for, microdosing, all of those things. It gets us closer. It's not the end all be all, but it gets us closer to that sympathetic parasympathetic balance, to your point, the static compound that it brings. It just wants to bring the body back into balance so that you can have a better mental health, so that you can sleep at night, so you can get up in the morning and take care of your children. I mean, there's just so many elements there. It's a tool, and it's a tool, I think, for the women in their journey of self-care, and whether, whatever that looks like for women, there's just so many uses in your daily life that you can use cannabis and CBD. There are personal ways that you use it in your life and that it's really blessed you.
Yeah, I think you're so right about there are so many aspects of self-care, and it is very individual. And I have to say, my previous book, not the current book that's coming out, which is Cannabis and CBD for Health and Wellness, but my previous book was called The Happy Healthy Nonprofit. And don't let the title throw you. It's not just about nonprofits or for people in nonprofits. It was about self-care. And we talked about, my co-author Beth Cantor and I talked about the 3 pillars of self-care being sleep, nutrition, and fitness. And if you had to start with one of them, you want to start with good sleep, because sleep affects how you eat and process food. Sleep affects how motivated you are and energetic you are so that you could go out and work out. Sleep helps you heal, helps your body rest and heal, helps reduce inflammation. So sleep is a wonderful place to begin. And that's really where I started my journey. So for me, just a little bit of cannabis would help me sleep, help me stay asleep, because I had no trouble falling asleep. Some people do. Some women especially do. And it could be stress related, or it could be menopause or perimenopause, hormonal related.
Right.
When you fall asleep, that's wonderful. But then when you wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning or 2 in the morning and you can't get back to sleep, it's horrible. So having that sleep throughout, that was one of the ways I started to use it. But then it's also a pain issue. So when you have chronic pain, you can't get to sleep or stay asleep. You can't get comfortable. The pain keeps you up. And then the pain also wears on you. It wears on your patience and your nerves. And it's just a terrible state to be in. No quality of life at all. And then everyone around you suffers too, because you're suffering, you're angry, you're irritated, and you really bring everyone down around you. Your energy is so terrible. So when you relieve pain, you can fall asleep and stay asleep better. When you relieve pain, you can get through a day without this darkness about you, without being dragged down or dragging others down around you. It lifts your mood. It lifts your spirit. So you become a better mom, a better partner, a better friend. You're better to yourself. Energy. So when you think about turning things around, people turn to pain pills, people turn to sleeping pills, or they turn to antidepressants. Well, what if you can do something that's more natural with less bad side effects?
Right.
That isn't going to be deadly, does not have within this plant the ability to kill you if you are an adult using it properly. It does not shut down the part of your brain that helps you breathe. That to me says we've got a medicine that is safer than a lot of things out there, more natural than a lot of things out there, more well suited for our human bodies, and effective.
Yeah.
Look, where's the downside?
Yeah.
There
absolutely.
really is none.
Yeah. I'm a part of Dr. Sulek's group, and he does a really, really great job of just bringing all of the latest research and studies and lays it all out, and he's just very, very brass tacks about what's going on in the industry with research. And they had the Patients Without Time cannabis seminar this weekend. I was watching different elements of that, and the individual who created methadone, right? So we have this opiate epidemic. And, most doctors will not get up and talk about cannabis or CBD, but he said that specifically, and used the word M, marijuana and THC and cannabis is the only medicinal product that he has seen that works and has never killed anybody and is non-lethal as far as a medicinal product. And that's pretty big for someone that's sprayed a methadone. Opiate epidemic, so stretching within the women's wellness and self-care industry, you can take a bath bomb bath with, magnesium salts. You can do vaping or a little bit of vaping before you go to sleep at night to help you get to sleep. I have a client who takes R1000 when she gets up at night, kind of like you had said. It's when she gets up at night, 3 or 4 drops, she's down for the rest of the night. So your body's endocannabinoid system is changing at all times of the day, just like our endocrine system, and our cortisol is rising, should be rising in the morning and dulling at night. That's women. And then moving into women and self-care and like their elderly parents, right? So that's like another vast growing population demographic that's growing with cannabis, CBD use, et cetera, for pain, all of these different elements too. I had a client last night and we're in Minnesota and she learned how to make her own gummies. And who does she deliver her gummies to? Her mother, so it's a very, very self-conscious, conscientious is the right word, movement that I think we see going on. And with women, I love Ellementa's website where it states, women are the caregivers of all. We're taking care of our elderly parents. We're taking care of our children. We're taking care of our partners. We're taking care of our grandchildren. I mean, our endocannabinoid tone, like systemic at balance at all times, is near impossible. But to have this balancing brought back to us, which is these small little microdosing or different ways that we can consume the plant every day, I think is what's so really unique for women in their recovery and being able to deal with the stress adaptation every day.
Yeah, so we hear from a lot of women who say, well, I just can't. I can't do cannabis because I tried it once in high school or college and, I just felt terrible. I got really high. I was so out of it. And I've got a busy life. I've got responsibilities. I've got kids and I can't do that. Well, what we tell women is you don't have to get high to feel better.
Right.
If you want it, there's nothing wrong. If you want to feel that euphoria and that altered perception and just sort of be in that high state and giggle and laugh a lot, great. That's wonderful because laughter is good medicine. But if you want to also function throughout the day, be very productive or be very creative, if you want to be alert and present for the people around you, loved ones, your children, your partner, your parents, then microdosing you mentioned is an option. Right. And that is just the theory that if you take small amounts of especially higher CBD to THC, you are less mind altered, but still nourishing your endocannabinoid system and bringing things to that homeostasis, that balance that we usually don't get in our stress-ridden lives. It's a very powerful thing to think I can take a little, like a supplement, either throughout the day or a little each day, and I'll get benefits. And those benefits compound over time. So CBD, you don't always feel something right away. And that's something, it's interesting when I hear people say, oh yeah, I immediately felt something like, well, I have a super ultra sensitive system. And I have sometimes felt a little bit, when I've taken some pretty powerful CBD. But in general, it takes a while for it to build in your system.
Yep.
So knowing that, just taking it as a supplement, we are all kind of conditioned to taking supplements. Why not take cannabis or CBD as a supplement to help sustain and support your system, which then fortifies you against stress?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think interesting piece about CBD and cannabis, to touch point on the endocannabinoid system, we've evolved with mammals. It's evolved over time. This is just really beautiful relationship. And cannabis isn't the only way that we can help our endocannabinoid system. We make it from fats. So making sure that we have a high fatty acid diet, and omega-3 is one way. Exercise can kind of trigger our anandamide. So that gives those endorphins out. Rest and relaxation with massage helps our endorphins, hops and some different botanicals as well. So some people that are scared of CBD or cannabis or just don't have access to it, or frankly, CBD isn't cheap. And unfortunately, there's some really cheap brands online that you should stay away from, but it's not cheap. And we do our best here. And I know others do, whether it's a subscription, to help people boost their endocannabinoid system. There are other ways that you can do it outside of CBD and cannabis. So that's really the other great thing about the plant, is you can step outside of the plant and boost your body in other ways. So.
Well, also you mentioned about not just our system, but the different plants. And if people understand that in plants, there are the chemical compound phytocannabinoids.
Right.
In our bodies, we naturally produce endocannabinoids, endo in the body, cannabinoids. These were discovered during cannabis research, and scientists were trying to figure out, well, why does the chemicals of the plant affect the human body and brain so much and so well? And that is because we as humans are producing similar kinds of compounds. So you mentioned anandamide. Anandamide was also identified during cannabis research, but it's existing in our bodies, and it's our bliss molecule. That's what they call it. Anandamide is Sanskrit for bliss. So it's our bliss molecule, part of what you are calling also the endorphins, the hormones that are coming out of exercise, massage, and also taking certain kinds of foods or certain kinds of supplements. So cannabis is just part and parcel of all of that. It has been so vilified that it seems like a scary foreign thing. But if you think about echinacea, if anybody is taking echinacea has a phytocannabinoid, and it interacts in the same or similar way as cannabis. But even things like black pepper, truffles, dark chocolate, cacao, they have phytocannabinoid-like substances that also interact. Any woman knows when you're PMSing or just feeling terrible, a little bit of dark chocolate actually does lift your spirits. It lifts your mood. It's because it's attaching in to our system and affecting it and releasing certain positive feeling hormones as opposed to the negative feeling hormones. So if you put it in that context, cannabis has compounds similar to chocolate, has compounds similar to, it has limonene, which is in citrus fruits. It has linalool, which is in lavender. It has myrcene, which is in mango. All of a sudden, you're making these connections to the things that we're not afraid of. So why are we so afraid of this plant?
Isn't that the
we should not be.
Yeah, that's it's so fascinating to think about. I mean, linalool and limonene, lavender and lemon. I mean, we've been studying essential oils for how long? And so this whole stigma doesn't just have to be around reefer, right? There's stigma around the absolute hard science of the reality of all these different components that we get from the plant. And I do see that starting to break down. And the fact that we have CBD products going into CVS and Walgreens, I just hope it doesn't show up at Valvoline while you're getting your tires, but it's kind of being found everywhere. So it's everywhere. And I think you also made the point, though, this is really important. People need to know the source. They need to know where it comes from. They need to ask for the test results. Any cannabis company that's licensed and following the regulations will have to do testing. And any smart company with cannabis or CBD products will pay the extra money to get the test done. And as consumers, we need to make sure we're educated and know what questions to ask, what substances to look for.
what testing to make sure has been done, such as pesticides, heavy metals. You don't want that in your cannabis or CBD products. We don't want it in anything we consume, but we need to be especially careful, particularly with anything derived from the hemp plant, because the hemp plant actually extracts heavy metal from the ground. It can be just laden with it. And if somebody doesn't do a proper process of extraction, it could actually be a major health problem. So we need to be educated as consumers.
Yeah, I think thank you for speaking of that, because I think that when people get on the internet, and now it's so vast that people now are just in kind of the pattern of price shopping. So now we're just kind of like, whether it looks pretty, and you understand marketing. You and I both love marketing. Like if it looks really great, it's pretty, it looks professional, the website's awesome, you just kind of trust. And if you ever email a company, you don't get an answer within 3 days. Or if you ever email a company and they don't want to share or can't fully share information, walk. There are plenty of incredible companies doing the right thing and spending the money on testing. And I know firsthand, when I first started looking for a CBD and a cannabis provider and formulator, when I landed with Scott, I said, Scott, prove to me yours is the best. So I literally probably brought 30 to 40 different companies to him and probably drove him nuts. But he was patient with me and educated me on all the different ways that people nuance and kind of slide across, not fully explaining what is in there. For instance, hemp extract. Hemp extract, how much active CBD cannabidiol do you have in that hemp extract? So to your point, asking for a COA, sometimes it's not even to just see that they have a COA and that there's no heavy metals or solvents in the product. But when we understand, when you take what we call the entourage effect, so the full plant extract, and we have all these companies that look the same and it says full spectrum hemp extract. When you ask for the COA, you then, as a consumer, can then start to break down, well, how much CBD does this company have in percentage compared to another company, or where are the variable minor cannabinoids? Ellementa just had their last month was on the different minor cannabinoids and how the different cannabinoids help the body. So testing doesn't just have to be just about purity. And oh, by the way, at the same seminar this weekend, Verde Labs, which is very well known, he had said they had to start taking these extra measures. And it's why we have a QA code, and a lot of companies now have QA codes, is because he was finding companies would then take their tests from him with his signature on it, and then they would be whiting out different contaminants on the COA. They would white out and retype in stuff on the COA. And that actually was pretty common on the marketplace.
Wow.
So there's so many nuances of people, to your point, everybody kind of wanting to jump in. It's a very, very tempered market still. And there's tons of private label and major companies out there, but the COA has a lot more to say than just contaminants. It's really how much of different variables are in the product. And then you can go back and ask better questions to the consumer, to the provider on the product. I think there's so many variables that we can look into. I think how consumers continue to get smarter and smarter.
We need to be. When you think about it, going into Walgreens, like you said, and to CVS, if you think about who is actually going to get their products on the shelves in stores like that, in chains, major chains like that, it's going to be the big companies. And those companies may or may not be producing products that are actually full spectrum or that are as good for us.
Right. They're products made for margin and mass distribution.
There you go. So they're going to cut a lot of corners. And they're going to push things through, even sometimes when they know they might not be the highest of quality, because it's really not about healing people. It's about the bottom line, the profit. So we've got to be vigilant about this. And just because your favorite Walgreens or CVS or fill-in-the-blank store is carrying the product, you need to know how they have vetted those companies and the products that they put on their shelves. And one would think that in a chain like that, the vetting process is based on a criteria that is very, very different from the criteria we've been talking about.
Yeah, most definitely. Farm to table, small batch companies that sing and do chakra over their plants. I mean, there's just so many different realms and variants of how many people are taking such great care of harvesting and bringing it to the consumer. It's really fun.
And I think that if you think about it too, look at what happened with the wine industry. Look at what happened with beer and even just artisan foods, that care and the art of it, the paying attention to the nuances. As consumers, the more educated we get, we can begin to discern different flavor profiles. Right. We can smell the different cannabis products and begin to sense and tell whether there are certain terpenes in it that appeal to us. We will find growers who are producing then products that are more nuanced, are richer in certain cannabinoids or certain terpenes that aren't just a wholly manufactured chemistry experiment, but really done with a lot of mindfulness. And I look forward to that kind of environment and that kind of cannabis industry.
Yeah.
The artisanal strains and the artisanal, the small batch, the micro productions.
Right.
I think that's where we would really find not just good medicine, but overall a more pleasurable experience.
Yeah. I'm so excited about that. There's so much fun. I wish we could be in the biology lab, like CBG, CBG is really, really great for women and bone health. I mean, there's just so many cool attributes of all the different minor cannabinoids that I find just as exciting than just THC and CBD. Yeah. So we're just at the beginning. Okay, so you have to tell us about your book. So you have a book coming out with a doctor, and I'm really excited about it. When does it come out? Give me kind of the framework and why you went back to writing on your, 15,000th book.
Yeah, okay, 12th book.
Okay, 12th.
So this one is co-written with Dr. Junella Chin from New York. She is a phenomenal medical doctor. She's an osteopath, I believe, and is very knowledgeable, has patients. She is treating patients with cannabis. Her stories of some of her patients, all very anonymous, of course, are told in our book. And it's amazing, the process, because it's not a simple process. It's not, let me give you this prescription and now it's going to sort of cover up everything and they'll think you're feeling better. It is very much fine tuning. And it's that individualized process that she goes through with each patient. And we talk about that process in the book. So the book, Cannabis and CBD for Health and Wellness, really addresses everything from the history of why it was made illegal, prior to that, how it was being used medicinally, and then all the way through, how do you choose a dose that works for you? How do you know what strain might work for you? What cannabinoids should you be looking for and what do they each do? What about the terpenes? Just a simple breakdown of each element of cannabis, and then how you use that knowledge to find the right medicine for you. So this book it's also a beautiful book. It's got lots of photographs in it. It's meant to be the book that you refer to all the time as you explore cannabis for health and wellness or explore CBD for the same.
That's great. And when is it going to launch?
So the book is out in June, and we'll be embarking on a book tour in the month of June, hitting the West Coast and the East Coast. New York City, Boston, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and a lot of spots in between.
Wow.
And it's really, to me, one of my favorite books. The Happy Healthy Nonprofit was an amazing book. I just wish it could have been The Happy Healthy Person, because that was what that book was about. Yeah. But this is my chance to have a book that is really about the happy, healthy person.
That's great. It sounds so wonderful. I can't wait for it to come out and support you. And also another question, you've been, an entrepreneur and you've been in the cannabis industry long enough. Like where do you personally see kind of the next step, whether that's with Ellementa and where Ellementa is going to be continually kind of reaching into, and any shifts or changes that you see coming, or industry at large? Kind of what do you see ahead?
Well, when we started Ellementa, we were convinced, I was convinced, and I convinced Melissa, who believed me and saw the same thing. And then Ashley came on board, and we were all convinced that women are important and to the equation of cannabis becoming legal everywhere and becoming available to all. So that is a major piece of it. We've seen now in 3 years that women are a major component here, that women are the best consumer for any brand to try to reach. Since if you tell a woman about a great product and she tries it and likes it, she'll tell dozens of her friends about it. She'll bring it into her home, put it into her medicine chest, and now everyone in the household is able to benefit from it. So you tell one woman and you're already telling dozens of people. It's just that simple, that equation. Now all these studies come out saying women and boomers, that's going to be the next big thing. Well, we know that. Yeah. We're living it. That's us. That's what Ellementa does. Yeah. I see Ellementa will be global. Ellementa is going to bring more women together to start this movement. And we work with men. It's not like we are excluding men. We're just addressing women's lives, women's health, women's issues. Again, because we're the epicenter of care of all of those around us. And more than anything, we need to take care of ourselves. Yeah. I think that the money that's flowing right now, it's still going to mostly male-dominated companies. But I do see a lot of women coming into the space with money to invest in women with businesses. We're in our first fundraising round and talking to both men and women. Okay. A lot of the men we do still speak to wonder about the women's market. Why just women? Why not everybody? Yeah. The women don't question that, which is great.
And how do you use that money to fund Ellementa? Like, what do you want to utilize that for?
Well, as any startup knows, the two major expenses that you often, when you're bootstrapping, becomes very hard. It's human capital. Yeah. So being able to hire the people that we need to hire in order to grow exponentially, and so that the founders don't have to wear 175 hats.
Absolutely. Brilliant.
I want to be able to place that hat on more and more people and help people not only have livelihoods, but to have a company that they're part of, that they can believe in, be passionate about, and heal themselves in the process of learning about this plant. And then the other piece of the money would be for marketing. Mm-hmm. It's great to be first mover. We have first mover advantage. We were the first global network for women, teaching women about health and wellness aspects of cannabis. We're the experts on women, cannabis, and health.
Right.
But lots of people are coming into the party now. Yeah. Some people who were focused on a different aspect are starting to shift because they see the women's market as such an interesting, coveted market. Right. In order to maintain that advantage we have to market and market in a big way, market more mainstream. Yeah. It's really startup 101.
It is. Yeah, it really is. And it's super fun to be a part of. And I know that you guys will get there. What's great is that, you've created enough salience that you're respected enough that people now are able to come to you, and say, we want to help you. We want to be involved with Ellementa. So congratulations to you. And
Thank you.
Believe men are starting to see the value that women bring, not only to business at large, they're waking up to the power that women have behind the cannabis industry. And so congratulations.
I agree. And I have to say that partnering with men, partnering with women on projects, I do find any man who had a feminist mom from the 60s and 70s is a different kind of guy, and he gets that. Yeah. A lot of the sort of, not to be stereotypical, but sort of the hippies right. who embraced the plant way before we did, who pioneered cannabis, as medicine, who were growing it, who were farming the land, and who went to jail, frankly, for this plant. Those who have paved the way, men and women, but lots of guys, and they love what we do. They think it's fantastic. They understand, they get it. It takes all of us. It doesn't just take men, just doesn't take just women. It takes all of us together as human beings on this planet to change the way the world sees this plant and to bring it back to earth and to people.
Yeah.
It's up to all of us.
Yeah, good. It's interesting you state about, the investor piece of men, because a lot of investors I speak with here in Minnesota, a lot of them were kind of amongst that first prohibition and, utilize the plant. And so they're affinitizing going back to being able to re-revolutionize it themselves as well. So those are the right kind of men in the industry. For you personally, kind of end off, I always ask this question. Personally, what is something that you have awakened to in your own personal life as of lately? It doesn't need to be even cannabis related.
I think more than anything, I've awakened to the fact that we have a limited time on earth. Mm-hmm. And the older you get, the closer you get to the reality of your mortality. And so you don't want to waste it.
Yeah.
You don't want to waste that precious time. That time becomes so much more valuable in your mind, and you need to honor that time. And so whether it's taking care of yourself, taking care of the people you love, that is way more important than all of the material trappings. Mm-hmm. I think I've always intellectually known that, but now I more viscerally feel that. Mm-hmm. And even my husband said the other day, wow, I just suddenly realized lately, I'm going to die. And I said, you just realized that now? And he said, yeah, I've never really thought of that. It never seemed like a reality to me. And I said, I've been thinking about that since I realized I was an actual human, which must have been 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
I've always been driven by a fear of death.
Yeah.
And so I am trying now to be more driven by a celebration of life.
Good.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that.
So I think that's an awakening. That's an awakening to try to shift that, because I don't want to spend the remainder of my time here in fear.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. Well, Aliza, is there anything else that you want to share with us today on Ellementa, CBD, cannabis, kids? Anything?
I think the most important thing for all of us to know is we're in it together. Whether it be in the cannabis industry together, whether it be just on planet Earth together, we are in it together. There's a lot of negativity flying around in many of our communities, worlds, but we need to support one another, take care of each other, and not forget to take care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. If we don't have the energy and the wherewithal, if we're not in good health, then we're not good to anyone.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And to note back to our first event, so many women are looking for the same relief. So the more that we can all come together, support each other, support our experiences and what's worked for us and what's not worked for us, and help each other kind of cut the fat on getting to where we want to go faster. And that is feeling great, sleeping at night, being able to be more present in our lives so that we can love those in front of us and serve those in front of us. I always think about Maslow's highest hierarchy of needs, and that we have shelter, we have good nutrition, we have relationships in our life, we have a job that we love. There's this whole transgression that to be in our highest state of health. And we all, I think, are in the pursuits of that every day. So thank you for sharing that. And one last thing is, where can everyone find you and Ellementa?
Well, Ellementa is spelled E-L-L-E-M-E-N-T-A. That is L, which is French for her. Menta, Spanish for mind, her mind. That's actually what it stands for. So it's Ellementa Woman, singular, on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook. And then for myself, it's A-L-I-Z-A Sherman, Aliza Sherman, at Aliza Sherman, all over social media. You can find me anywhere, although I prefer Twitter. Twitter's still my favorite go-to place to be.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, my dear. We will make sure that everything is in the show notes, and we will stand strong on the ground here in Minnesota with Ellementa, making sure that we do all that we can to share this beautiful medicinal plant and everything a woman deserves to know about and be educated about with the right information. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
And this is Cassandra. Thank you for listening to the Awaken Beauty podcast. Make sure you subscribe to any area that you listen to your favorite podcasts on, and leave a possible 5-star and a comment, but don't just leave your comment. Please just leave your grasping aha, your takeaway, so that you can not only remember kind of what you captured from the episode, but to also reinvigorate another woman and to listen to that episode herself. So thank you again. And until next time, stay sane, get sleep, and bring your sexy back.
Hello, Awaken Beauties. Thank you for joining Cassandra today. Were you inspired to bring your sexy back? Please like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Interested in high-quality natural products for your hair, skin, and wellness? Please visit evoquebeauty.com. Again, that's evoquebeauty.com. EVOQbeauty.com. Until next time, stay sane, get sleep, and bring your sexy back.